Hey guys, Reimagining Reaper here. So I've just got done watching Highest to Lowest on Apple TV Plus. This is the new Spike Lee joint. It is a modern reimagining of the Akira Kurosawa film High and Low, which itself is adapted from the novel King's Ransom by Ed McBain. I've never seen the original Kurosawa film, almost ashamed to admit that, but in a way I'm coming into this with a fresh perspective, and honestly, the pedigree behind this had me instantly sold. This is, of course, an A24 production, but more importantly than that, this actually marks the long awaited reunion between Spike and Denzel Washington. And so that alone had me instantly on board. But is this a modern reinterpretation that can actually stand on its own? Let's find out. So the film follows David King, a New York music mogul once described as having the best ear in the business, whose record label, Stacking Hits, has fallen on hard times as they've been unable to produce hits like they used to. But things begin to change after David's son Trey is kidnapped. Soon, David finds himself caught up in a life or death ransom plot that also forces him to reconnect with the music that made him a household name. Gotta address the elephant in the room, and that the last time Spike Lee remade a beloved Asian film, we got Old Boy. So, it's certainly easy to go into this with low expectations, approach it with a certain level of trepidation and skepticism. But I'm happy to report that unlike, Old Boy, this is a very, very enjoyable film, even if you haven't seen the original. Okay, so I gotta admit, that first half, I was kinda worried. The storytelling seemed kinda uneven, and the editing choices were pretty choppy and distracting. So, yeah, not getting off on its best foot. There are things to enjoy in that first half, in fairness, particularly the performances. Denzel Washington, is great as always. He's incredibly charismatic. He's kind of goofy and funny. But also radiating that element of power, but also with a deeper vulnerability. He's really, really selling someone trying to maintain their authority as everything is turning upside down around them. He's great, as is Jeffrey Wright. He has a really great dynamic with Denzel. Honestly, I think it's stuff like this that does make that first half worth sitting through because but it it really takes the time to find its footing, and once it does, this thing fucking cooks. That second half is an absolute blast. Obviously, at its core, the whole ransom plotline is really interesting and compelling to watch, particularly the actual sequence of them going to pay the ransom money. It is incredibly gripping stuff and probably one of the highlights of the film. It is so fucking good. But beneath that surface level, there's some really interesting ideas at play here. Yeah, obviously celebrating New York and black music. There's some ideas, exploring the music industry, exploring the artistic side versus the business side. But of course, the I guess core message of the film is that attention is the new currency. Very much showing us how social media impressions and media coverage can build to success and really build momentum in the public eye. It's really, really interesting stuff, particularly in how we see this ransom plotline affect David's career. It is really, really gripping. Obviously, it's enhanced by some really cool stylistic choices from Spike. The kind of choppy editing from earlier on in the film gives way to some really cool flourishes, including split screens and stylized wipe transitions. It is so full of energy, and you can tell Spike is just having a blast bringing this to life. There's also a pretty fun score here, which injects almost a kind of whimsy to it, particularly the absolute banger of a piece that plays during the whole sequence where they go to pay the ransom money. It's absolute peak, and yes, they do play it again later on in the film. Beautiful. The actual licensed songs and stuff are utilized well. Again, tying it into that celebration of black music. You always have stuff like James Brown playing, and we also have some music done by artists like A$AP Rocky, who yes does appear in the film playing a fictionalized rapper called Young Felon, and honestly, his performance here is absolutely fantastic. He is great here. He really holds his own against veterans of the screen like Denzel, as this rapper who is trying to make a name for himself. He is great. And the film also has that sort of current of humor running through it as well. There's some some good laughs to be had throughout. It's shot fairly well too. Again, in keeping with all that energy, the film obviously utilizes drone shots of New York. Very much capturing the vibrance and the style of the city. In keeping with its celebration of New York. It is really, really well done, and all of this stylized, heightened energy really keeps the film moving at a very, very compelling pace. Where the storytelling in the first half of the film seemed uneven. It really finds its flow in the second half, and it's a really easy, very compelling watch, right up to an absolutely glorious climax with that. Seriously, that whole standoff in the studio is really, really magnetic stuff. You've got Denzel and A$AP Rocky really playing off each other fantastically. Of course, yes, we get a banger action set piece as well, and some couple kind of fun music video sequences in there as well. It ends the film on a high, ensuring that the film, it is absolutely a very, very good time overall. Overall, highest to lowest overcomes a slightly rocky start with a very compelling and gripping story exploring the music industry, carried along with distinct stylized energy and magnetic work from Denzel Washington. Out of 10, highest to lowest gets an 8. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen highest to lowest? What did you think of it? Have you seen the original Kurosawa film? Or have you not? I'd definitely like to hear the perspective of those who have seen the original, how it compares. And what is your favourite Spike Lee, Denzel Washington collaboration? And are you looking forward to seeing what the pair does next? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.